Good morning, everyone. This is Britt Simon. Okay, so I've been on a trip this week, and so I haven't done a live session for a few days, and I wanted to just jump on live and take any of your questions that you have. I actually do want to focus on the visa bulletin. There you go. You should now have sound, I think. Can you just confirm? So someone just give me a shout. We got some sound now. Volume. You need more volume. Okay. Oh, what's going on with my? I've been away, and then all of a sudden I've got no sound. What's going on? I don't know. Let's see. Okay. I think you should be getting me now. I'm hoping you've got sound now. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Doris. Okay, so let's talk about, I'm going to talk mainly about the visa bulletin and try and demystify some of that for you. And also, I just briefly want to touch on some of the questions that you might have that are non-visa bulletin related. Just a quick thing on DV 2020 and 2021, there's been no movement, no news this week, so there's no need to ask me questions. Okay, thank you for all those people that confirmed about the sound and letting me know right at the beginning. I appreciate that. I'm good, thank you. Daniela wants to know, how am I? I'm good. I was in Florida this week, so long journey just for a bit of work, but yes, I was there. I was in the Sarasota area, which is a very nice area. I actually have worked there many times before. Okay, so let's start to talk about the visa bulletin, and I'm going to particularly focus on Asia because I think that's probably the one that we can simply understand things by looking at Asia. Now, if you have not seen my videos where I predicted the eventual possible capacity for each of the regions, you should go and have a look at them. I don't like doing predictions on a month-to-month basis, but in terms of the overall capacity, like how many visas should be issued to each region for the year, or could be issued, and how many cases that would take in order to get there. I produced a video on each one of the five main regions, right? So you really need to have a look at those to understand what's going on. Because if you're in Asia, for example, and you don't understand why we're at 7,200 when the highest case number assigned is much higher than that, it's probably because you don't understand yet, and you should do, that the target of KCC is not to get to the highest case numbers. They're not planning to get to the highest case numbers. That's not even what they're trying to do, right? So if you've got case number Asia 43,000 or something, I'm sorry, but you're probably sad if you haven't understood this before, but you're probably not going to get any chance of an interview. Okay, they're not trying to get that high. Okay, so that begins to explain why the visa bulletin isn't moving as fast as you might expect, because we've had 7 visa bulletins now, and if your expectation is that they're going to get to 40,000 or something, well, the problem is that they're not going to get to 40,000. That's the first problem, right? The next thing you need to understand is how many cases there are, real cases, in the range that they already had current. So they were already current up to 7,000 in Asia, let's say, and they only moved by 200 additional spots. But if we look at the numbers, I can tell you that there were about 3,600 cases, real cases, under 7,200, right? So, you know, I'm taking out holes, right? Of those 3,600 cases, 1,400 of them are still at NVC. So that's more than 1/3 of the cases of the overall case numbers are still not scheduled below 7,200, right? So that's too high. There will always be some non-responses, probably in the range of 10 to 15%, but not 35%. So the reality is that as they looked at how many numbers they needed to increase this month, with the DS260 processing that is still continuing, there were probably more cases where the DS260 is now processed because they worked quite hard in January, I would imagine. They have more cases that are now ready for scheduling from the 1,400 cases, and they didn't have to increase the number very much at all. Remember, they only have to schedule between about 400 to 500 cases per month in order to hit the quota for Asia, right? In January, they issued 2NLs to about 440 cases, right? Of those 440, roughly 25% of those, 113 I think it was, went to KDU embassy, so that's Nepalese. Around about another 100 or so would have gone to Iranians, and about 200 of the 2NLs went to the rest of Asia, as I call it, right? The rest of Asia. So out of the 1,400 cases that were under 7,200 and not yet scheduled, how hard would it have been to find an extra 200 cases for the rest of Asia? And that's why they didn't need to go to case number 10,000 or 8,000 or anything like that, right? They only had to increase a very small amount because there were already cases under 7,000, already current but not yet processed, that had then been processed in January and would have taken the majority of the case, the capacity in Asia for the following month. So that basic principle, once you understand it, that the DS260 processing and the cases that are becoming revealed within the existing current numbers, that kind of explains what's going on in every region, right? Now, Africa I'll come to in a minute, but the same thing can be said for EU. Same thing can be said in the two smaller regions, South America and Oceania. So you know, you need to understand, like, what's the overall capacity, how many cases are they trying to schedule in any given month, and where those cases come from. Do they need new case numbers to be added to the visa bulletin, or are there already cases current but not yet scheduled because the DS260 wasn't previously processed? So let's just think about DS260 processing for one moment. That is a major job this year. It's a lot because they have to process all of the DS260 submitted from the complete number range, and there's 142,000 people selected. So the curse, if you like, to KCC of having such a large number of selectees is that it significantly increases their workload in terms of DS260 processing. So whilst we could normally, in a normal year with, let's say, about 100,000 selectees, whilst we could normally say that DS260 processing would have caught up by about December and January at the very latest, in this year, we're probably going to see DS260 processing on the backlog continue until February or March, possibly even into April, which means that our visa bulletins will be suppressed a little bit while case capacity or embassy capacity is taken from cases that were already current and now can be scheduled because the DS260 has been processed, right? And that was obviously what happened this month, right? Africa's a slightly different case. I had created a video around about a week ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago, about the why I did not expect a big jump in Africa. We got an increase of 5,000. That, frankly, is the most I expected. I didn't expect even that high of a jump. But it would have been a disappointment to many who didn't understand, why there wasn't going to be another sort of 13, 14,000 number jump. And the reasoning behind that is similar to what I just explained for Asia and the other regions. But also, as you look at all of the embassies that are highest performers, none of them got about 30, got to 2NLs above about 34,000, 34,200, 34,300. So there was a backlog of cases that were already current and ready for scheduling, but the capacity of the embassies just simply wasn't there, even in the very best embassies, right? In the very biggest, the busiest, the most friendliest embassies in terms of taking DV work, right? So before they made even a single new African case number current, above 40,000, they would have had to have figured out, okay, in that 6,000 case number range and below, how many more cases can we reveal from that number to catch up with the backlog? So they had to catch up with the backlog, and they had more DS260s processed, therefore more cases to be processed. And therefore, to me, it was very clear that that they should not be increasing the visa bulletin very much at all. I thought it actually might stay static, 40,000. I thought it might continue with zero increase from 1 month to the next. But then, I could see it increasing by a small amount, 2,000, 3,000. And I was fairly surprised it increased by as much as 5,000. So I suspect we'll continue to have a little bit of a backlog in there. And that means that the next visa bulletin, published in a month's time, will probably still see slow progress on Africa also. And again, as I started off the conversation, that's only a problem in a sense, or that's only a mystery to you if you think they're going to go in Africa up to 122,000. But they're not going to go to 122,000, right? That's not anywhere near what they're going to get to. They're not going to get, I don't think they're going to get into the 80s. They may not even get into the 70s, frankly. But but they probably won't get into the 80,000 range, 90,000 range. They won't get there. There's no need. There's just too many selectees. So, and again, I've produced a video that explains that in much detail. So, so please do have a look at those videos if you don't understand. Now, could I be wrong about all of this? Absolutely, I could be wrong, but I'm probably not going to be wrong. I've been doing this 10 years, so I do understand what's going on. The only other thing I thought I should explain is that my estimations are somewhat optimistic. They're based on the capacity of the system if the system is being completely used, right? And people have talked to me this morning and over the last few hours and said, okay, now that this visa bulletin has come out, do you want to revise your predictions from the earlier videos? And my answer to that is no, of course not, because the capacity of a bucket, if you're filling a bucket up, right, and you're filling up a bucket which holds 5 gallons of water, right, and you're filling it up with the water, the speed at which you fill up the bucket has no impact whatsoever on the capacity of the bucket. The capacity is unchanged. It's still a 5 gallon bucket. You can fill it up fast, you can fill it up slow, but the capacity doesn't change, right? And so when I've created the videos on each of the 5 regions, the 5 large regions, I've talked about the capacity. That does not get affected by the month-to-month speed at which they try and fill that capacity. And I also don't know for 100% certainty that they're going to try and fill all the capacity. They don't legally have to give out all 55,000 visas. But the 55,000 visas is the capacity. So speed of 1 visa bulletin or or one visa bulletin going fast or slow makes no difference to how many visas there are available, right? So that's why I don't get too excited or worked up about visa bulletins month to month, and I think many of you that do and try and interpret the end outcome based on the speed of the visa bulletins. I think if you try and do that, it's because you don't understand what the heck you're talking about, all right? And so sorry to be quite so harsh, but that's basically the point. You don't understand it. If you're looking at the month to month movement to try and predict the end number, that's not how it works. So I'm hoping you're sort of understanding that. Okay, one other slightly sad thing I have to talk about again. I have been very vocal over the last few weeks and the last couple of months to warn people not to get stuck at embassies that are going to screw them over, right? Now, Addis Embassy is the one that immediately springs to mind. Accra is the same as this, but particularly those two embassies are a problem, right? Now, Addis Ababa, even though it increased the number of selectees that it took in January, is not going to get to the highest case numbers, right? There's going to be a large backlog of cases in Addis. So I had a note from someone this morning who I know had seen my comments that this person's case number was 41,000. So she was not current a week ago, right? A week ago, she could have emailed KCC and said, unlock my case please, my DS-260. And she could have changed her address and she could have moved, therefore, to a different embassy. She chose not to do that. She saw that I'd advised that very strongly in various ways. I've spoken about this on videos. I've told people, get the hell out of bad countries and move before you become current. Because once you become current, you're going to get locked into an AV status at that embassy, and KCC will no longer unlock your DS-260, right? And unlocking your DS-260 is incredibly important for those cases, right? It's the only way that someone can save their case. So this lady, I think it's a lady based on her name, was at case number 41,000. A week ago, she could have unlocked her DS-260, and as of today, she probably can't. So she's now stuck. She needlessly got stuck in the AV queue for Addis Ababa, and she's basically just ruined her chance. She's not going to get a green card because she hasn't listened. She didn't listen to what I said, and she didn't take action. Okay, so if your case number is just over 45,000 and you're in Addis, for God's sake, listen to what I'm saying. You have to get out of there. You have to unlock your DS-260. And yes, I know that Curtis again stirred up, more incorrect information about unlocking. I wish he wouldn't do that, but Curtis has been proven wrong about this point about unlocking for at least 2 years, and for some reason he doesn't understand. And but frankly, someone who's going to get locked into an AV queue needs to unlock their DS-260 and change their address. That's the only way out of an embassy like Addis or Accra. And so to sit there and worry about whether you'll be delayed when actually you're just about to lose your green card because you're not unlocking is just stupid, frankly. And it's based on incorrect information that Curtis is spreading. And I don't know why he does that. But DS-260 unlocking doesn't cause delay, right? Let me just clear up a couple of things. DS-260s are opened in the order that they were submitted in. So earlier cases are opened before later cases in terms of date of submission. Not all cases take the same time to process. So sometimes, someone might have submitted their case on May the 8th, and someone came along on June 1st and submitted their case later than the earlier case, but the later case might get processed before the earlier case. And that's because different cases take different speed of processing, right? So case DS-260 processing is by submission date, or at least it's opened by submission date. Cases processed at a different speed. and DS-260 unlocking doesn't automatically delay you, right? That those are three truths that are undeniable at this point. If you're arguing those things, if you say any of those three things are untrue, you're incorrect, you're wrong, and I don't know what to say, because I've proven it time and time again, right? And there is so much proof, so much evidence out there. I don't care what evidence you think you've got. Those three things are facts, right? Just facts. So I'm hoping you're listening to all those things, right? Okay, let me just take a couple of quick questions. I don't have an awful lot of time this morning. I've got to go do some things with my family, but we'll see, right? We'll see what we can get answered. What do I think about the Israeli embassy? Will it screw us due to the war? I don't know. I can't predict the future with regard to that embassy or things about other embassies, really. You're asking me to see the future. I can't do that. Please say something about Yaoundé Cameroon embassy. It starts with a Y. That's something about it. I think you probably mean, is it a good performing embassy? And it has been up to now, but you can certainly look at the data on Sarthisius's website. You can have a look at that and you can figure that out for yourself and decide whether they're a good performing embassy or not. Now that we've had the visa bulletin, of course, we expect more 2NLs to be issued in the next few days. They will be issued now between now, like Monday, and the end of the month, right? For that whole period. And usually embassies get one batch of 2NLs per month, right? So they'll do various embassies on different days. So, and Yaoundé might be towards the end, but we'll see, right? Greetings from Columbus. I've got business colleagues there. I might get there one day, actually. But yeah, I'm having a lovely day. I'm hoping you're not too cold. I got my DV lottery visa through your guidance in 2017. Folks, just follow every step from him. His knowledge on DV is too much. Thanks, sir. Well, that's lovely that you came back and said hi. 6 years. You can go for citizenship soon, I would imagine. You must have been there for 6 years, right? So anyway, congratulations. Thanks for coming and saying hi. Nairobi embassy does not respond to my email. What can I do, sir? I don't know what email you sent to them, right? Is it important that you've contacted them or tried to contact them? Why have you tried to contact them? I have no idea. How can I tell you what to do? You might have written to them to ask them, do they want to come for ice cream? I don't know. You have to tell me what can you do? I don't know. Send a carrier pigeon. I don't know. Give me a little bit more information so I can answer your question. Hybrid, do you think having 8 numbers and 8 letters in a confirmation number is guaranteed to be selected, or is this jabber stories? Yes, it's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. I've seen some YouTubers that are spreading this nonsense, but it's just bullshit. Please ignore stupid people. Don't listen to stupid people, please. Europe only 17,500. Yeah, I explained why. What's the performance of the embassy in Monrovia? I think it's okay. But again, have a look at Zarthisius's data and see how many cases they took in January, right? You can do that. 66K from Benin, is it safe? I can't say it's safe because that number is at the beginning of the risky range anyway, right? So we may not, as a whole region, get to that number. We may do, we may not. I don't know. We're going to need to see some acceleration of the, of the process first of all, before we can even think about that case number, getting there. But it is, if you look at my video, it is in the beginning of the range that I think is somewhat at risk. Not as much risk as 76,000 or 86,000, but somewhat at risk. So have a look at that video. Make sure you understand my points about that. Right? Can highest number get processed and get 2NL over low case number, depending on with particular embassy? If a low case number submits very late and a high case number submits early and gets processed, in certain circumstances, yes, the higher case number will be scheduled before the lower case number, but the case has to be current. Both cases have to be current, right? They're not going to schedule case number 100,000 because the DS-260 is processed for that case when the region is not current at that level, right? So you have to be current at least. But yeah, there are scenarios where lower case numbers took much longer to be processed, and therefore higher case numbers will go before them, right? Guayaquil, Ecuador, cases SA2280. I don't know whether the current conditions are good at Ecuador or not. You'd have to have a look at the data and look at that. I think your case number is probably a decent number. It's probably okay. I have a question. My case number is EU31X. I'm in US and will be doing AOS. Is it better to email KCC and tell them I will do consular processing, since sometimes AOS takes longer time? It's a decision you have to make, Sanjar. Your case number is going to be in the high range, right? Which means that you won't become current until quite late in the process, maybe June or July, right? And in that case, it'll be quite stressful doing adjustment of status. I can tell you that. Now, usually there is enough time as long as you take advantage of early filing policy, because the cases that become current for the month of September, for example, will be published. We'll know those numbers in July. That's the last visa bulletin for 2024, right? So between the 8th of July and the 15th of July, we'll see a visa bulletin that will have numbers that affect, whether you've gone current or not. You might already have gone current in the visa bulletin that's published in June, but it's probably going to be in that range, June or July, based on your case number, right? Which means that, let's say it was July, you would then be able to immediately file your I-485 package. And if you know what you're doing because you're listening to someone's mum on the immigration forum, then you know that you can take advantage of that early processing. And therefore, there is time for you to get through the adjustment of status process. But it will be more stressful, right? So a higher case number just makes it a bit more stressful. There's time, but if anything goes wrong, or if your immigration office is slow for some reason, then that could be stressful. The other thing is, if they do like they did in DV 2022 and 23, they could run out of visas early. That could happen in, let's say, September. That's what happened in DV 23, and that would leave you without any option, right? So, consular processing may be a better option for you, but you have to decide for yourself, really. Okay. Crying for my EU 24 36.5. Please cheer me up. I can sing you a song. Would you like a song? Happy birthday to you. Did that cheer you up? I don't know another way to cheer you up. I can't promise you that you're going to be current. And I think, your case number is certainly in the risky range. I think I put a range of about 35 to 37 K as being the risky range. So you're just in a risky range. It could even cut off earlier than that, right? So yeah, I'm sorry. I hope you enjoyed the song. Thanks a lot for the information. Is Nairobi still performing well? Yes, as far as we know, Nairobi is performing well. Case number 31K, that's great. You'll be fine. Why Europe jumping so slowly compared with the previous years? For the reasons I explained earlier. Case number 59,000 in Morocco has any chance to get scheduled? Yep, probably does. What's the largest number you expect them to reach in Algeria? I don't know. We'll have to see what the region ends up at. Algeria has a lot of selectees, a very high success rate. So it's likely, if we knew the precise end of the range in Algeria, then we would probably be able to say, okay, where would the case number be? But I don't know exactly, all the numbers I would need to know in order to calculate that. So you'll have to wait and see how the whole region does, okay? Case number 103K. I know I have no chance, but it was a good journey. Thank you, Simon, for helping us. Madis, you're welcome. I can't say, by the way, that you have no chance, right? I just think it's very, very, very unlikely that you have any chance at all. I just can't see a scenario, particularly now as we're progressing. I can't see a scenario where you get current, but hopefully you enter DV25 and you'll have another chance, perhaps with a low case number next year. That has happened. I've known that. People have a high case number one year, they miss out, and then miraculously they get another selection the next year or 2 years later, and they've got a great case number. It can happen. Okay. Any prediction for Asia in upcoming bulletin? Is Asia 14K a good case number? Asia 14K is probably okay. I don't have a prediction for the next bulletin, but we'll see. Case number is 56,000. Do you think visa bulletin will become current for this type of high number? You don't give me the range, but I'm going to assume it's Africa. You don't give me the region, but let's say it's Africa. I think in Africa that would probably be a fairly safe number. Okay. AS25K, got any chance? Not very much. I think my range for Asia in my prediction was 17 to 25K. So you're right at the high end of my possible range, right? I think cutoffs could come as early as 17K. I wouldn't be surprised to see them at 20, 22. It wouldn't be a surprise, but much above 25,000, I don't expect much above 25,000. ICC, it is usually slow at this point of the process with only 5 months left. No, it's not normally slow. March, April, May, they're normally good months for processing and for scheduling. So no, this should be the busiest month. We don't really know, ICC. We don't really know whether we'll see in the next few days whether these visa bulletin numbers were justifiable in terms of the capacity that they send out, right? So in January, they sent out in Asia 440 2NLs. If they send out 500 2NLs in Asia this month, then they were absolutely right to not increase, such a big number, right? It's about how many 2NLs they can send out and what capacity they can use within the month. They only need to send 500 2NLs per month over 12 months. That would give you 6,000 cases. That's 12,000 people. That's way more than they have to schedule in order to issue 8,500 visas, right? So they don't have to go much faster than that, let's say in Asia. And if you do the same thought process for other regions, you'll find the same sort of ideas, right? They don't have to do as many cases as people might be thinking, because people are looking at Asia 43,000 as being the highest case numbers or whatever. Well, that's just extra numbers. That's just reserves. That doesn't mean they have to go faster with the visa bulletin. Okay. Please, is case number of 17K hopeful of getting a 2NL in Accra? Oof. So it's going to be risky, right? It's going to be a bit scary. You have no choice but to wait now. You're locked in, I should imagine. If you didn't move and you chose to stay with Accra, you're locked into Accra now, right? And so you've got some chance, depending on Accra starting to take, that we need to see them taking, at least 30. 30 was what they were doing before. It's not enough. But, if we saw them seeing 50 or 100 visa interviews for DV in the months, then, yeah, you would be in good shape. If we see them taking 20, 25, 30, and maybe some months nothing at all, then even your number is going to be at risk at 17K for Accra. Okay. DS260 is locked. Can't fill. I can't fill still my DS260 application. And Nairobi. Okay, this was the thing. Nairobi US Embassy doesn't respond to my email more than 2 months. What's the solution, sir? So finally, I understand why you're emailing. The solution is you have to contact KCC. The embassy don't know anything about your case until you're scheduled with them. So they're just going to ignore you. You should already understand that. You should know that, right? Now, you have to work with KCC. KCC to unlock can get your DS260 unlocked because they can schedule an interview for you at Nairobi in order for you to prove your identity and unlock your DS260. But you can't do that on your own because the embassy don't know who the hell you are, right? They have to be told by KCC to do that. So you have to contact KCC and ask them to arrange to have your form unlocked by you visiting the embassy. Not for the big interview, just for a short interview, just to establish your identity, right? You have to do it the right way. You can't ignore the normal process on that. I'm sorry if you're not understanding that, but you have to listen to me because you're going to miss out otherwise, right? Please work with KCC. And if they give you some sort of other answer, try again with KCC. Be persistent. Be polite, but be persistent with KCC because it's the only way it can be sorted out, okay? How long on average does AOS take? How long is a piece of string? You know, we've seen cases take several months and we've seen cases take just a few weeks. It's a very variable process. My own case was through adjustment of status, and I was current for the month of June, and I didn't actually get my interview until September the 2nd. And that's because my immigration office, San Francisco, were dopey as hell, frankly. And you know, I wrote a whole description about that. So you know, so if you were interested, I can point to you where I described what happened. Please, Simon, furnish me with details on GC O-level certificate, with it's considered as part of education requirements on DV lottery apart from WASSE. So in my way of thinking, GCE O-level is probably not sufficient. You probably need A-level level education. But it varies by country, and I don't know all the country rules. So, you know, you should have a look at the different country rules, okay? Okay. Right. Do you have the latest current data? I do. So does everyone. Zarthesius updated the data yesterday on his website. So you can go and have a look at that and download that. That's what I'm looking at. AF72K, any chance of being scheduled? Liberia? Maybe. It's a little bit of a risky number, but we'll see. Arrived in California 2 days ago. It's the last time I've come through LAX as a visitor. Cheers from an Aussie. Well done, Josh. LAX, nice. So I'm hoping you're going to stay around that area. Nice area, and lots of opportunity there. So anyway, congratulations, Josh. A request unlock at this time. In my case, 45K. What's the problem with Faced My Case? I don't know. I can't answer your question because it's not very clear. I don't know what the problem is with your case, but AF69K has been assigned to Kuala Lumpur, Sudanese national. So fortunately, I have the luxury to choose. Upon checking the embassy's performance, I think my case would be safe there, wouldn't it? Look, your case number is AF69K. I can't tell you that you're going to be safe because your case number is already quite high. But in terms of the embassy, yeah, it's probably okay. But you know, it depends on whether you become current or not. That's going to be your main thing, right? The other thing is that you know, as a Sudanese national, your documentation probably won't be that good, and when you go to an embassy that isn't used to seeing Sudanese nationals, they may not understand how to deal with your paperwork, and there may be delays because of that. So it's a double-edged sword. Going to another embassy might give you faster chance of getting an interview, but it might give you more delays after the interview. And those delays in some cases can be a problem, right? Okay, so Freetown, I'm more conversant with WSSSE, and I'm a holder of GCE O-level with 5 credits that's required from every applicant. Is that what they asked for? I don't know. It could be it, but it's a bit weird, I have to say, unless O-level is Does that allow you to enter into university? Seems a bit weird. Okay. How is Accra doing? Well, they're not doing very well. But we'll see how many 2NLs they take this month. That's what we have to look for. Okay, let me look for another interesting question here. At what month does the process start to go faster? It generally is going faster by this time, but we don't know it's not going fast, right? The proof of the pudding is how many interviews are being scheduled, not the case numbers. Not the movement month to month. It's how many cases are actually being scheduled, how many visas are being issued. I can tell you that, let's see, so far there have been a total of nearly 12,000 visas issued, which is okay. It's about the same as last year at this point. And Africa has, well, there's 28, nearly 29,000 people have been scheduled, which is for 6 months of scheduling. We're about to see the 7th month being scheduled, right? So in total, I expect to see about 70,000 people being scheduled. They're at 29,000 right now, right? So in the remaining 6 months of scheduling, including the month that the visa bulletin is just being published for, they need to schedule about 40,000 people, right? So they're kind of where they should be. This is, so far they've done about right. It's about normal. In fact, they're probably slightly ahead of where they should be this year. So, they're not doing bad. Case number 15K Nairobi, submitted in May, not processed. Will KCC go back and process it? Yeah, what it means is for some reason your case took longer to process than other cases. I don't know why that is. It could be for various reasons. But yes, they will process it. It will happen. I would continue to email KCC time and time again, not every day, not every week even, but at least a couple of times a month. You should be asking the status of your DS-260. Okay. Okay. The higher the case, the less case number we have. Yeah, sort of. There is a reduction in density in higher case numbers in 3 of the 5 embassies regions. So yes, your statement is sort of true. Currently issued visa is below 15K, scheduled at 12K. Does it mean they have a long way to go to meet 55K? I think I've just answered that actually. What's important is how many cases they're scheduling. They select 140,000. It's a funnel shape, 140,000. They need to schedule about half of those people, about 70,000. Of the 70,000, 55,000 will be issued, right? So it's a funnel, and so far the funnel is working correctly. Even though some of you don't understand why or what's happening with the numbers, the reality is they've scheduled 29,000 people so far, right? And we'll probably see another 3,000 or 4,000 scheduled this month. I'd like to see 5,000 and 6,000 being scheduled at this time. Maybe even 7,000 would be nice. But they have the ability to increase that capacity later on if they need to. So the next few months will be quite interesting. Okay. Case number is 29.4K EU. Is it safe? Probably safe-ish. Nobody's really safe. You're never safe until you got your visa in your hand, right? But is it a safe number? Yeah, it's probably pretty good. You're probably okay. All right, here is 41K safe number for Algeria. I'm asking for a friend. Yeah, of course it is. It's almost a silly question. This question is a silly question. Case number 9300 for Nepal. How safe am I for AOS? Your number is obviously good, right? You should know that by now. So yes, you'll be fine. Simon, please unknows Addis Ababa embassy performance. Case number is 18,000. Given a chance, you might have a chance. at 18,000 at Abyss. They may get to that. Maybe I'm thinking they're going to get to about 20 to 25,000 in that range at Addis. And that, we'll have to wait and see. But so you may have a chance. We'll see. Simon, I don't understand Visibility well, how it works. Please help me and explain it to me. Guys, you have to not ask vague questions. If you ask a vague question, then I would say, look, I've written extensively and I've created videos extensively on how the Visa Bulletin works, and so there isn't any reason to ask me vague questions about, oh, I don't understand. If you ask me vague questions, it just shows me you haven't been bothered, frankly, to put any effort into understanding what I've said before, right? So please try and put some effort in. And then if you still got some questions after trying to put some effort in, I don't mind at all answering those questions. But if you just say, oh, I don't understand Visa Bulletin, please explain it to me. Like, I got no way of explaining the whole thing, because I don't know what you don't understand. If you don't understand anything at all, well, go read the basics that I've written about, or go watch some of the videos that explain how it works. So, please put some effort in. Help me to help you. Otherwise, I can't spend all my time explaining to someone who won't do the basics. Right? Do you think I will have any trouble continuing with the process if I overstayed my visa as an exchange student due to COVID back in 2020? Depends how long you overstayed, frankly. There was a brief period of time, a few months, where travel was impaired, right? If you then stayed 3 years, then that's clearly a problem, right? And you can't in one moment disrespect the immigration laws of America, and in the next moment expect to take advantage of those same laws, right? There are consequences to your actions. But if you were delayed a little bit because of COVID, and as soon as travel reopened, you left, then no, they won't hold that against you. They know about that, right? But it depends how long we're talking about. Okay. My mum sent her DV24 lottery case number, EU 18,000 case number for AOS to USCIS on December 26 and was rejected for early submission. It's not even current now. Why would she have sent the bloody thing? I mean, they rejected her case correctly, and she just cost herself wasted money and wasted time. So, of course, she couldn't have sent it. She should not have sent it in December. She has to wait until it's current, until it's at least in the Visa Bulletin. But the VB just went to 17,500. So why would you send an 18,800 case number in December? I'm sorry, people. You have to pay attention, and probably your mum was probably listening to some dopey lawyer or something that doesn't understand what to do. But certainly, go and find someone's mum who is a particular user on forums.immigration.com, and she has all the information you need for adjustment of status. And if your mum had listened to someone's mum on that forum, she wouldn't have sent her adjustment of status package in. She wouldn't have wasted her time. So frustrating when people don't do the basics, frankly. Hello, Simon from Turkey. My case number is 5300. When do you think they'll send my interview email? Soon, I would imagine. It's not a high case number. So DV 2023 winner here. Oh, cool. Been in the US now. So far, so good. Awesome. Congratulations. I filled my newborn 2 months ago. Is the DS260 count with the new date? No, it's got the original submission date. This whole thing, this bullshit that Curtis spread about the dates resetting or whatever, or you going to the back of the queue, it's just bullshit, right? It's not true. I don't care what the government representative wrote or how Curtis misinterpreted what was written. I don't care. Like, you know, your original submission date is the date they would have opened your case, and adding a baby that doesn't need any background checking. Babies don't have background checks, right? Because babies aren't terrorists. They don't have any traveling problems or jobs to look into. They're not biochemists doing nuclear warfare because they're babies, right? So there is no background checking on a baby. So adding a baby to your case doesn't cause any delay. And it's just stupid to think it would do, frankly. So, you know, I don't know. Some things are just so easy to understand, and still there are people who choose not to understand them. It's just crazy. Listening to a Gibby respect for you, my Gibby respect. I don't know. I'm sorry. Whatever language you're talking, I don't know what that language is. Is London embassy safe? Yes, it is. It's a pretty good embassy, right? It's not heavily backlogged now, as far as I'm aware, but it's not a huge recipient of cases typically. So even if they're a little bit backlogged from 1 month to another, they can make that up in a very quick period, in a month or so. They don't have, it's not like the backlog becomes overwhelming in that embassy. Okay. Case number AS 27,000, is it possible to go current? Probably not. I think it's too high, but we'll see. The block says the African host system is somewhat equivalent to sponsorship, sort of, yeah. Could you elaborate? Does it replace an I-134? The article I wrote about the host system in Africa, I think, was from about 2015. So since then, the government have tightened up their use of I-134 in some places, right? So I would say if you've got a host, you may also need an I-134, right? Depends on the situation of the case. But there are some embassies in Africa that are very favorable to the host relationship, and they understand it, and that's all they will need. So there's not a sort of a black and white scenario in this. I can't say categorically that if you've got a host, you definitely won't need an I-134. You might need both in some cases, or one or the other, you know, depends. Okay. Okay. Do I think 77K case number in Africa has a chance? Pretty high number. That's starting to be in a very risky range, right? So we'll see. Okay. I'm going to try and find one or two more interesting questions. Quick thing, I'm about to take a couple of questions. If you need to repeat your question, you can do that right now, because I'm at the bottom of the list. I've scanned down. I've missed a lot of questions, so you know, just put your question in now. My case number is 94K. I have any hope? Pretty much no hope. Your case number is too high. Okay. What's my opinion about the Skopje embassy? The remaining months, like May? Yeah, I don't know. You have to see that. Is overstaying your last visa a reason to be refused at the interview? It can do, yeah. If you overstay too long, it can do. Do you think EU 30,400 is going current in June, July? Maybe. We'll have to wait and see. I can't be precise about that, but yes, I would have thought could be as late as that. Might be a little bit earlier, May or June, but we'll see. Right. Can Accra Embassy schedule 26,800 for March? They won't. I mean, can they? They could, but they've got a lot of cases under 26,800 that are ahead of that number in the backlog, and therefore they will not schedule that case for March, even though it's current. They won't get to it. They would need a massive number of interviews be scheduled to get to that number. So no, it's not going to happen. Could they? Is a sort of a question. Is it technically possible? Yes, it's technically possible. Is it going to happen? No, it's not going to happen. right? Because there are too many cases in front of you. Okay. So this is interesting. When you enter to do an activation visit, do you admit you are just activating on this trip, or you not mention it at the border? You don't have to lie. There's no need to lie. When you're entering on a green card or an immigrant visa, don't tell any lies. It's not a question of admitting it or anything. If they ask you a question, what you're doing, you tell an honest answer. Well, we've got our immigrant visa. We're going to spend a couple of weeks here. We're going to look around. Then we're going to go home, to our country, and we're going to figure out, selling the house and doing whatever else, right? That's perfectly reasonable. There's no harm in talking about that. But in general, that they don't want long conversations at the border. So you don't need to worry about all of that. But certainly don't lie about anything. Okay. Let's see. One more. I see lots of people did paste in their questions. Do people from Nepal need to worry? No, they don't. Your case number, although it's one of the highest in Nepal, you probably don't need to worry. So you're probably all right. Let me see. Is it possible to show the CO assets, landed property and T-bills you have in your names that you could liquidate in the event that you don't have an I-134? Yeah, the public charge thing. This will be the last question I answer. The public charge concern can be answered in various ways. One way is to show your own savings, liquid assets or savings that you have that can support you in your journey as you're going to America. Another way is by having a real job offer of an American company that for some reason is willing to hold the job open for you. And the third way is an I-134. So yes, you can sometimes just get away with, it's not like a crime or anything, but sometimes you only need to show your own assets. If you have at least $10,000 US per person on the application, but it has to be at least that number, then that's probably enough in most cases for you to just show your own assets. That's all you would need. All right. Okay, everybody. Okay, this is I'm just going to finish off. This is part 2 of an earlier question. You overstayed your visa by 39 days, completely a non-issue. It's not going to be a problem because of the COVID thing. So don't worry about that. It's not a problem. Okay, everybody, thanks for joining me this morning. I'm going to call that a day. I need to get on and do some things with my family. I hope that was useful for you. I hope you understand a little bit better about the visa bulletin now, and why case numbers appear to be going slow, but really it's pretty much as expected. We'll see what the number of interviews we get in the month of April. That's going to be interesting to see that they are issuing the correct number of interviews. All right, everyone, give me a thumbs up on this video and make sure you're subscribed, please, to the channel. All right, thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.